Hey everybody, this is the last section of review on chapter 7. This is section 7.5 entitled Graphing Systems of Inequalities. And you look at the word here, inequalities means things that are not equal. So in the last part of this chapter, in the earlier parts of the chapter, there was equal signs here. But we're going to change those, and you're going to get problems that have inequality signs like this. And if you recall, the answer to inequalities are many answers. Many different things could work. So I could put several different numbers in here for x. I could put a number in here for x and I would get several different answers for y. So there are many answers on inequalities. So that means that when we solve a system of inequalities, we're going to get so many answers we can't list them all. But instead what we're going to find that we'll do is we're going to graph each of those lines, and we're not looking for the point where they cross, we're looking at the region, the shaded region where they cross. So I'm not looking for this point, I'm looking for a place where these two lines cross. So let's say below this line and below this line. Well, where do they cross? Well, they cross in here. So our answer is not going to be a number or an ordered pair. It's going to be a picture. You're going to get pictures, and you have to tell where the two equations intersect. So let's go ahead and do this one. Remember, you're going to have to go back now and practice graphing inequalities. So I'm going to do that right here. Okay, if you recall from graphing inequalities, linear inequalities, we start with the y-intercept. So remember, this is your slope, and this is your y-intercept, or b. So let's start with the first inequality. If the y-intercept is at 1, that would be right here. Remember how to graph that? And then the slope is a -1. That means a -1 means down 1 and right 1. So from here I'm going to go down 1 and right 1. And I'm going to graph that line. So there's a line, and put a line right through it. Now before we move on, we're going to make an indicator, a couple things. First of all, there's no equal sign on this problem. So we don't really want to include the line. We want everything next to the line but not including. This one's got an equal sign, so we're going to include the line. So how do we indicate when we don't want to include the line? Well, we make a dashed line. So I'm going to just erase a little bit of this to make this line dashed. The line is dashed and it's telling me don't include me. I am below the line. Now this less than symbol means I want all the y values less than the line. Where are all the y values less than the line? Well, they're down here. They're below. So I'm going to indicate it not by shading, but by putting a couple of helping arrows here. We'll come back and shade in a minute, but we know that all the items less than the line are going to be below that line. Okay. Now, now we're ready to graph the second one here. By the way, notice that I've indicated my shading before I did the second line. All right, second line. Y-intercept is at 3. 1, 2, 3. And I've got a slope of 2. Okay, so a rise of 2 and a run of 1. There it is. So I'm going to draw a line through that. Okay, whoops, moved it off there. Okay. Not perfect line here, not using a ruler, probably should, but okay. So there's my second line. And since there's an equal sign on it, I'm going to leave it solid because I want to include that line. Now let's look at the inequality here. It says it's less than. I want all the y values less than the line. Well, where are all the y values less than the line? Well, they're down here again. So I'm going to indicate below the line again. Now you can see the beauty of using these little arrows. It's not, my picture's not gotten so muddy that I can't see what's going on. I can see that these two graphs intersect down here in the south. This one goes this way, but this doesn't. This one goes down, but this one doesn't. So they intersect in the south here. So I'm going to indicate that by shading this region. And as you shade these, you make sure you make it nice and neat. So that is the solution. The solution to a system of inequalities is a shaded region. And that's what we've seen happen here. I want to talk about one little thing on the order in which you go through this. Okay? Usually, here's how you graph a line. You start here. Start right here, and you go this way. You do the y-intercept, then you do the slope, then you turn up this way and go through the crack here. We look and see, oh, is that line solid or dashed? Well, it's an equal sign, so it's solid. And then you look at the shading. We start here and we go this way, right through the crack there. Y-intercept, slope, what type of line? Where's the shading? Again, y-intercept, slope, what type of line? Shading. I'm going in this direction. That helps you follow the order as you go through these. All right, let's take a look at another one. All right, the instructions are going to say solve the system of inequalities by graphing it. Now, somebody look at this and go, oh, they're in standard form. Yeah, but we're going to be graphing it, and we're not going to be using elimination to solve this. So what we do need to do is get this into slope-intercept form where the y's alone. So we're going to do that for each one of these, okay? I'm going to start by subtracting x from both sides, and I get negative y is less than negative x minus 1. Notice I put the x term first in our normal form of y equals mx plus b. Now y is not alone yet because there's a negative out here. So I've got to multiply both sides of this equation by a negative 1. But remember that when you multiply an inequality by a negative, you have to turn around the inequality sign. So this has now been turned around. That takes you clear back to chapter 6 when we did this. Okay? Maybe it was, yeah, chapter 6. All right, negative times negative is positive. Sign's been turned around. Negative times negative x is positive x. Negative times negative 1 is 1. There is your first equation, or inequality. Okay? Let's do the same with the other one. Subtracting x from both sides. Dividing both sides by a negative, or multiplying both sides by a negative works. Okay, I'm out of room over there. I got to turn the sign around. So it was greater than, now I got to turn it to less than here. Okay, less than symbol. Okay, negative negative is positive. Negative times negative x is positive x minus 3. So there we have it. Two inequalities, and we're going to graph these and see where the shaded regions intersect. One of the key reasons I did this is for you to remind you that you've got to turn this sign around when you multiply both sides by a negative. All right, we're going to graph this, and I'm going to use the process I showed you in the past. I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go this way. Here we go. Y-intercept is 1. Slope, well, there's a 1 here, so it's a rise of 1 and a run of 1. Slope is 1. Rise, 1 is equal to 1 over 1, right? Rise of 1, a run of 1. Then I look through here and I go, oh, there's no equal sign, so this has to be a dashed line. So I'm going to dash the line. It's not equal to. Okay. And then I determine whether I shade above or below. This is greater than. So where are all the y values greater than the line? Where all the y values are bigger than the line are above it right here. So I'm going to just indicate that with a couple of arrows. It's above because it's greater than here. Okay. All right, let's do the other one. Y-intercept at negative 3. Slope is again 1, rise of 1, run of 1. The line is not equal to, so it's a dashed line again. And then less than, I want all the y values less than the line. Well, that means they would be down here, down below, okay? Okay. Now, remember, we're solving a system here, and our goal is to find out where do the lines intersect. And if you look at our two shaded regions here, they don't intersect at all. So we would have to write an answer. It would be no solution. There is no solution to this because the graphs do not intersect at all. Again, the process is the same. Start with the y-intercept, take care of the slope, figure out what kind of line it is, and then indicate the shading. And then look for where they cross. Okay, next one. All right, let's take a look at this one. Now you'll notice that this one's going to be a little bit more work because the variable y is not alone. So we're going to have to solve both of these equations to get the variable y alone. This one's going to be a little easier. If I just subtract 2x from both sides, I got y is greater than or equal to negative 2x minus 4. We're going to graph that in a second. Okay. This other one's going to be a little more work. Let's add 5x to both sides. And we got 2y is less than 5x plus 1. And dividing both sides by 2, we end up with 5 halves x. I'm going to write it that way for the moment, but we can turn it into a mixed number. Plus 1 over 2. Remember, I'm dividing these and these, dividing them both out. All right, we're distributing that 2 in by division. Now we've got two inequalities here, and we're going to go ahead and graph the both of them. This one's going to be pretty easy because it's just whole numbers, but we're going to have some fraction work here, make our graph a little bit more challenging, but not impossible. All right, we're going to start with the y-intercept, negative 4. Slope is negative 2. Well, negative 2 is equal to negative 2 over 1. So a rise of a negative 2 and a run of 1. There it is. I've got an equal sign, so I want a solid line here. Okay. Now I have to indicate the shading. Well, I want y greater than. Where are all the y values greater than the line? Well, they're above it, right up here. Okay. All right, let's look at the other one. I have a y-intercept of a half. All right, that's going to make this a little challenging. Half is right between 0 and 1. I've got a slope of 5 halves. Okay, now that's why we left this as a fraction, because we need the slope here. We don't really need 2.5. We need the slope. So I have a rise of 5 and a run of 2. So to go up 5, I'm going to have to kind of think about being in the middle of each of these marks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 puts me right there. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 puts me right there. And the run is 2, so we'll run over 2 here. Puts me right there. A rise of 5 and a run of 2. 5 over 2. And we're going to draw a line here. But my line has to be dotted because it's not equal to. We're not going to include it. So I'm going to make a dashed line right here. And I want all the y values less than the line. Again, that would be below the line. Less than is below, greater than is above. Now, as you step back and look at these two pictures, or these two graphs, where do they intersect? Well, this one's above, but that's going the wrong way. And down here, this one's below, and this one's this side. Looks like we're going to be over here in the east. So our equation's going to be right here. Or, excuse me, our shaded regions right here. My picture's not too accurate here now, but there you go. As you're indicating, you have 4 places to shade it wrong. 3 places that you could shade it wrong. Only 1 place is it's shaded correctly. And if you get these lines in the wrong place, then that's a big, big problem. So this is how we do it. It's always the same. You're going to start at the y-intercept, go this way. Okay? Y-intercept, go this way. Turn up here and make those decisions about the line. Okay? All right. This is going to be our last assignment in this chapter, or excuse me, the last video in this chapter. You'll have a couple other review assignments. Just check your assignments on Canvas there. Tonight's assignment is number 69. Again, it's in the back of the book, lesson 7-5. Do all those. Make sure you graph with some accuracy. Please watch the problems here. As you're doing them, make sure you're graphing accurately and check your answers. Their odd ones are going to be back there as well. Now, the test on this chapter, which is chapter 7. Now, you notice we went by this chapter pretty fast. The reason we did is we covered this material before we left on stay at home. We went to stay at home. So we've already covered this. This was intended to be a review of this chapter that we've already covered. So chapter 7 is going to be our last tested chapter here. Make sure you're prepared for it. It is going to be on Monday, June the 8th. All right. We'll talk to you next time.